Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, he's been described as a heart surgeon without a scalpel. What does he do? He's a transformational life coach and keynote speaker. His amazing journey just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, at my height, I was speaking 300 times a year, but I cannot hold a candle to my next guest. He is one of the most popular keynote speakers on the planet. Brian Bogert is in the studio. He's a transformational life coach and keynote speaker. Thanks for coming on the show.
Man, I'm happy to be here with you.
Yeah. Well, I'm energized by you. We have a mutual friend in Amberly Lago, and she has her show here. And when she said, hey, you got to interview my friend Brian, I didn't know what to expect, but I started doing homework for the show, and you're incredible.
Oh, well, thank you, man. I like to think that I'm just another human that has the opportunity to live on this life, and I'm just trying to do my part. I believe I live and exist on this planet just to allow my truth to give others permission to live theirs.
Wow. Well, you're so inspirational. I want you to start in your childhood because you almost died.
Yeah, when I was 7, I was run over by a truck, and my left arm was completely severed from my body. Reattached, I've had 24 surgeries, and I almost lost it again when I was 20. And so there was two and a half weeks of very intensive care in the hospital. And then again, over the course of the next 5 to 6 years, reconstruction, veins, nerves, muscles moved from all over the body. So I now can use it with pretty good meaning.
Sure. And I know a lot of people, they have a setback. It could be loss of a loved one, loss of a job. And it's paralyzing to many people. And they will stay there being paralyzed for decades. How were you able to kind of turn your tragedy into triumph?
Yeah, I mean, the early phase right in the hospital happened in the first few days when I was feeling sorry for myself. And we were overwhelmed with empathy and compassion from people in the ICU with us. And then I came to find out that their kids were the ones laying in the bed next to me with a terminal illness and didn't know if they were going to live for another 30 days. So perspective became really important. And that was when I decided early on that I wasn't going to get stuck by the things that had happened to me, but instead I was going to get moved by what I could do with them. And today, that's one of the messages I teach. I believe that moved people move people. And so is there always going to be hits in life? Is there a 32-year story of many journeys and ups and downs and getting knocked over and feeling like I wasn't going to be able to make it in many, many moments? Yes, they still exist. We're all human. We all have those moments. But most of the time it comes down to a choice followed by action. And that's how I live my life.
He's an amazing speaker. We found one of his sizzle reels. He has many on YouTube. Let's go ahead and play one.
Without further ado, I'm going to bring up another person in this same core group, a force of nature, a force of thought, a force of that impacting a billion lives for the betterment of humankind, and I truly believe that. Brian Bogert, can you come to the stage?
Runs over me diagonally, tears my spleen, leaves a literal tire track scar on my stomach, and continues on to sever my left arm from my body. Completely off.
Here's the thing, I was triggered deeply, and I am absolutely confident standing up here that almost everyone in this room had no idea where it was going today. Yes, I have a unique story, but we all have unique stories. What's important is that we pause and become aware of the lessons we can extract from our stories, and then be intentional with how do we apply them in our lives.
We need a tribe of people around us because what we're all wired for is human connection. So when we start there and we focus on people, we focus on who we are, I guess I just have a vision of the fact that we can have a lot better world because we don't need all this tension. We don't need all this anxiety.
Nobody talks about this stuff. Nobody. Got to unroot it.
I had to spend time, and it took months to unpack the root of my shame. And oh, by the way, there wasn't just one, there was many roots. So when I say unroot it, it means find the source, or sources, the roots or roots. I learned very, very early to not get stuck by what has happened to me, but instead get moved by what I can do with it. Embrace pain, avoid suffering, gain freedom. You see, the unavoidable precursor to change is acceptance. Until we accept the current state of things, we cannot change them. We cannot alter them. We cannot move and grow. But that's what we all want to do. So if we can create a higher level of awareness in the way that we interact with people, the systems that we create, the way that we're creating relationships, the patterns that have developed in our lives, and then we can be intentional with how do we apply those moving forward, we can actually allow ourselves to not repeat the same patterns in our lives.
What we need is each other. What we need is ourselves. What we need is to remember who we are before the world told us who to be.
Wow. I know one of your favorite expressions is take out the trash. Okay, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, so first we need to understand what trash is. But trash to me is the emotional triggers, behavioral patterns, and environmental conditions that cause us to react in moments based on the cellular memory that have nothing to do with what's right in front of us, right? So it's that moment that your dad looked at you wrong when you loaded the dishwasher incorrectly when you were 8, and it's now being activated when your spouse looks at you the same way, right? It's the trash that we're typically unconscious to that makes our actions not interpreted in alignment with our intent, which is why we often feel disconnected, alone, misunderstood.
Yes.
And so the trash from the past is those things that were created. My wife and I have traced ours back 3 generations. But the biggest thing to pay attention to with the trash from our past is that the trash from your past is not your fault. It just becomes your responsibility once you become aware of it or you start burying others in yours. See, the thing is we have to remove the shame and blame, because if those are on the table, growth and opportunity can't exist.
Wow.
And so we have to allow ourselves to realize that what we're stepping into is healing.
And he has a very popular podcast. Sometimes you broadcast with your wife, and it's called Flipping the Lid. Let's play a little clip from one of them.
Our show wouldn't exist without you listening. But if you want more information on how to become a guest, how to recommend a guest, or just to stay in touch, go to flippingthelid.com. We'll see you there. Welcome back, everybody. You know what we do here on Flipping the Lid, and I just get excited every time we have someone who's willing to flip open their lid, scan their can, go inside, and really unpack the elements of their stories that have helped make them who they are today. Today, our guest is no different. We've attempted to have this interview a handful of times, and life happens, and we've rescheduled, but I'm also a big believer in surrender and the fact that the timing is always perfect if we allow it to be. In the 5 minutes at pre-show talking with our guest today, it was very clear the resonance, alignment that we both share, but the purpose and intention for how he has actually created a very unique solution to be able to allow people to reboot their minds, step into who they are by better understanding the elements of their past and the intellectual and emotional narrative to get wrapped up in them. He does this work professionally, but he had to do it for himself, and he talked about the intent of doing this and creating this simply for his daughter. So, Don, I'm excited to have you here today, my friend.
Well, thanks, Brian. We like you said, we finally got this together. There were a couple of different things that interfered with our schedule, so I'm glad we got it on the books.
Life happens, and so that's something I've surrendered to. I'm also very grateful. You know, the only question I ask every single one of our guests is, I introduced you based on the little bit I know about you, the little bit of interaction we've had, but who are you in your words?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, if you go back to who I am, I'm a dad, I'm a father, I'm a husband, right? So that's who I am at my core. What I do for a living is just what I do, but I do it really more from the passion of it, so I help people basically perform at their highest level by eliminating these traumatic events that they've experienced in their life. And that's just interfering with them reaching their highest level of performance and enjoying life to the maximum.
Wow. You're a great broadcaster. I mean, I came up through the traditional channels of the media, and I think they kind of like train you to talk like an anchor and all that stuff. You're very natural. Where do you get that from?
I've been talking since I was 18 months in full sentences. And I think, I've just always learned and refined that craft. And I've said for a long time, I'm only as good as my questions. And so I'm a big believer, if I don't get the answers I want, ask different questions. And it's led to an ability to now interview people and take them into really deep places. And it's a skill set. But I'm learning every day, man. Where I was 5 years ago is not where I am today. And we were talking about the importance of reps.
Yeah.
And so I've just had a lot of reps in these last few years that have given me the ability to refine the craft.
And I wish I had your voice when I was on TV news. They call that the voice of God. And we just lost James Earl Jones, who probably had the best voice on the planet. But I bet you can get real deep if you need to. Imagine in a world. So we mentioned off the top of the show, heart surgeon without a scalpel. Explain.
Well, I think a lot of people don't quite know how to go inward. And I think that if we understand the heart, most of the time, the things that we're protecting ourselves are the things that we hurt in the heart on. Judgment, criticism, shame, feeling isolated, unworthy, disconnected, right? And the list goes on. And so if we understand that it's a heart pain, most of us cut that off here, and they live intellectually for our entire lives. I did for 25 years and didn't know it, and created a ripple effect of damage in my life as a result of it. So a heart surgeon without a blade is my ability to go inside and compress time in the healing to allow the heart frequency to exist. It's been studied and shown that the heart has 500 times greater of an electrical charge to the brain, and the heart has 5,000 times the magnetic pull to the brain. So it would also make sense that if we want to live in abundance, we have to live and lead with not just love, but with heart.
Sure, and there's lots of ways people can engage you. I know you have mastermind groups, retreats, you also do one-on-one coaching. Why don't you describe what a great client looks like for you? Who are you trying to reach?
So we have a broad spectrum of people that we work with, but the people that I would tell you I'm most apt to work with are ones that want to learn and have growth in their lives. But what I always tell people is you will never be a good client unless you have the desire and the courage to find and stand in your truth. If you're not there, you're not ready to be in my world. But my favorite clients to work with are typically the high-performing entrepreneurs who have not only creativity, but the ability to put things into action. Because we really can compress time. When we get them out of their own ways, we help them see the unconscious patterns, we see the ways they don't know exist within, then they go put it into the world instantly. And the impact is relevant and real. And so though we have programs to help people who aren't there or don't fit that profile, those are my favorite to work with because they take what we talk about and they integrate it and implement it immediately, and they see the results real time.
Outstanding. We're almost out of time. So final thoughts. What do you want to leave people with?
You know, at the end of the day, I think we all suffer for 4 reasons. I think it's the things that are left unsaid, the things that we lack permission to feel or say, the things we lack the words to articulate or understand, or the things that are left undone. My reason for existence, speaking my truth to give others permission to live theirs, not only alleviates me from the shackles of my own shame and my anger and all the things that happened, right? So I'm acting and doing, but I'm giving people permission to feel and say things that they wouldn't have otherwise, and words to articulate and understand them in a way that they may not have without me. We all have that ability. And so when I say move people, I think that true strength actually hides behind vulnerability. And every time you speak a truth in these areas, you're not only alleviating suffering for yourself, but everyone around you.
Wow, what a great way to leave this broadcast. You are so inspirational. We're also going to leave you with his website, which is brianbogert.com. The great Brian Bogert. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, brother.
You bet. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.